Somebody recently asked me if I thought Jesus was a pacifist. And I suppose that kind of depends on how we define the word pacifist. If we're defining the word pacifist as someone who doesn't resist evil at all, then I would say no, Jesus was not a pacifist. His entire ministry seems to be about resisting evil. If we mean by pacifist that Jesus did not resist evil in kind, he did not resist violence with violence, then I think the answer is yes. I think of the most common passage that is used in Jesus once said, if somebody strikes you on the right cheek, then turn to them your left as well. And a lot of people look at that and say, you see, Jesus just wants us to bow our heads and take the abuse and turn into doormats. But really, when you stop and look at that, I mean, Jesus specifically mentions the right cheek. Jesus lived in a world that was right-handed dominant, and so much so that the left hand was only used for unclean purposes. To even gesture at somebody with your left hand would have brought shame on you, because the left hand was unclean and you didn't use it. And so in order to strike somebody on the right cheek, you would have to reach across them and backhand them on the right cheek. So if somebody strikes you on your right cheek, this isn't a fist fight. This is someone putting you in your place. This is someone of a higher class demonstrating their position over you. And what does Jesus say? If somebody strikes you on the right cheek, then turn the other cheek to them as well. What you're essentially saying is, oh, you're going to strike me on the right cheek because you have every right to do so, but I'm going to invite you now to strike me on the left cheek also, which would require that they strike you in a way that would recognize your equality with them. And so Jesus isn't inviting us to simply bow our heads and become doormats in that situation, but to resist evil in a creative way that compels the evildoer to recognize their behavior without bowing to and responding in kind. The same thing with if a soldier demands that you take his pack 1 mile, go ahead and take it a second mile, right? The Roman soldiers were allowed to grab anyone off of the street and make them carry their pack for a 1 mile. But they were prohibited from doing it for more than a mile, because if they did it for more than a mile, then they got in trouble because they were kind of seen as instituting or causing frustration in people that could foment rebellion. And so imagine for a moment a soldier says, take my pack for a mile, right? You have to do this because I have power over you. And at the end of the first mile, you go, no, that's okay. I'll take it a second mile. Now imagine this soldier running next to the person carrying his pack saying, no, you have to give me back my pack. You have to give me back my pack, right? The roles get switched. Jesus spent his entire ministry resisting evil, whether that was in the form of evil spirits or the evil of empire, or the evil of religious people who wanted to draw lines in the sand and bar God or bar certain people from receiving God. Jesus resisted evil at every turn. What Jesus refused to do was resist evil on evil's terms. Right down to, the Roman Empire sought to delegitimize Jesus and destroy Jesus by using the most powerful thing they had available to them, and that was crucifixion. And rather than Jesus choosing to resist that evil with an evil in kind, Jesus chose instead to allow them to put him to death. And in so doing, Jesus proved that Rome wasn't as powerful as they thought they were, because Jesus allowed Rome to put him to death, and Jesus rose again from the dead. And so even in the crucifixion, Jesus isn't choosing to bow to evil and say, go ahead and do what you want. Jesus is resisting evil. And I think God calls us to do the same thing. I think God calls us to resist evil at every opportunity, but calls us to be creative about it and to resist evil in a way that does not respond in kind.